As bombs continue to rain down on Gaza, Egypt has came up with a new ceasefire plan for both parties. Ukraine denies claims that Russia has gained control of the city of Marinka and says the quote, fighting continues. Thousands gather outside a police station in Belgrade as protests continue for an 8th consecutive day. Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny says he is, quote, doing well after his transfer to a remote Arctic prison unit. Israel and Hamas on Monday gave cool public receptions to an Egyptian proposal to end their bitter war. The World Health Organization visited the Al-Aqsa hospital in Gaza and said that the hospital is taking in far more patients than its bed capacity and staff can handle, and that many will not survive the wait.
The doctors and nurses here are doing their best. Their best is never going to be enough until there's a ceasefire. There's no way to keep up with the scale of injuries and trauma and suffering that's coming through these doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yesterday evening, relatives of hostages captured by Hamas on the 7th of October demonstrated outside the Ministry of Defense in Tel Aviv hours before a meeting between the war cabinet.
רוצים להראות את הנוכחות שלנו, חשוב לנו להישאר במודעות שלהם, אנחנו פה, אנחנו סומכים עליהם ואנחנו מאמינים בהם שהם יצליחו לקבל החלטות אמיצות שיביאו את האהובים שלנו הביתה.
Palestinian Catholics attended Christmas Mass in Gaza City. Pope Francis on Monday deplored the, quote, desperate humanitarian situation of Palestinians in Gaza and called for an immediate ceasefire and the freeing of hostages in his Christmas message. Kiev denies the town of Marinka in the Donetsk region is fully under the control of Moscow's forces. The Russian defense minister had guaranteed that Russian assault units had completely liberated the strategic city. But the spokesman for the Ukrainian armed forces assured that the fight for Marinka continues. Russian state television showed images of destroyed buildings and Russian soldiers in what it said were the outskirts of Marinka. In a meeting with the Russian president broadcast on state television, Putin congratulated the Ministry of Defense and said that, quote, it is a success that allows Russian troops to move into a wider operational area. Meantime, the governor of Crimea has accused Kiev of an attack on the port city of Feodosivsky, which, he said, caused 1 death and 2 injuries. A Russian naval ship was damaged in Ukrainian airstrikes, said the Kremlin. Thousands gather in front of a Belgrade police station in support of those arrested for protesting against what they say was electoral fraud in Serbia's recent parliamentary and local elections. The Serbia Against Violence Party called on citizens to applaud the students and their struggle.
Dragi prijatelji, dragi saborci, molim vas prvo na početku da jednim velikim aplauzom pozdravimo studente I njihovu današnju akciju I njihovu borbu.
Russia, which has close ties with the current Serbian government, has accused the West of interfering in what it has called, quote, planned protests. Several hundred students and other citizens on Monday blocked traffic at key points in Belgrade as protests continued for an 8th consecutive day. Imprisoned Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny said on Tuesday that he was, quote, doing well after a transfer to a remote prison colony in the Russian Arctic. His fate concerns the West and his family, who believe he was sent there to be further isolated before upcoming presidential elections.
Там нет ни ФСИН-письма, ни зоны телекома, то есть практически невозможно связываться с заключенным напрямую. Но это все указывает на то, что они намеренно отправили его именно в эту колонию, именно для того, чтобы изолировать Алексея как можно больше, чтобы не давать ему никакой возможности общаться с внешним миром.
Karp, a small town of about 5,000 inhabitants, is located in Yamalo-Nenetsia, a remote region in the north of Russia, beyond the Arctic Circle. France have denounced the transfer as a violation of human rights. Navalny, a former lawyer, is serving a 19-year prison sentence for charges of extremism. He was arrested in January 2021 on his return from convalescing in Germany for poisoning, which he blames on the Kremlin.
Passengers on a plane that had been grounded in France for days over concerns of a human trafficking scheme landed in Mumbai, India early Tuesday. The plane flying from Dubai was destined to Nicaragua, carrying several unaccompanied minors on board. Out of the original 303 passengers, 25 of them requested asylum in France. There was an anonymous tip-off that it was carrying potential victims of human trafficking.
Police say they have arrested the father of a family suspected of murdering his wife and their 4 children on Christmas Day. Authorities discovered the bodies of the woman and her children aged 9 months, 4, 7 and 10 in their flat in the town of Meaux after worried relatives sounded the alarm. The man arrested is a 33-year-old Frenchman who had already stabbed his wife in the shoulder blade in 2019. The case was dismissed on the grounds of mental deficiency.
In New Mexico, the largest migrant caravan since June 2022 set off towards the US border on Christmas Day. Around 6,000 migrants walked through southern Mexico, many in hope of getting a transit visa to at least take a bus enabled to reach the US border, even though Mexican authorities claim they do not give them out. Mexico says it detected 680,000 migrants moving through the country in its first 11 months of 2023.
Workers in Iceland are erecting defensive barriers to block out lava from a volcanic eruption. Some experts say the eruption is mostly over, but the country's National Weather Agency claims it is too soon to make such statements. Residents in Grindavik have been allowed to come back for the first time since the eruption, but only short daytime visits are allowed to check their homes.
We can't pay loan on the house and rent. It's not possible, so I mean we have to come back. Nobody wants to buy our house. We can't sell it.
Yeah, we have a house here that's been it'll be demolished. It's completely ruined. So as you can see, it's police signs here, and kind of nobody is allowed to enter these buildings. I think all these houses here, they're all tilting and all cracked, and yeah, they will all be demolished.
The eruption, which began on Monday evening, opened a fissure in the ground about 4 kilometers long and only 3 kilometers from Grindavik. Residents were evacuated as a precaution on the 11th of November. For tourists, Christmas season might be fun, but not for residents in the French city of Strasbourg trying to get on with daily life. Many admit they avoid the city centre, especially on Saturdays when Christmas markets are absolutely overcrowded with visitors.
C'est noir de monde. C'est complètement noir. On voit les gens dans les allées qui peuvent même plus marcher en fait. Tout le monde a arrêté et il y a un monde, c'est impossible. Nous on peut même pas sortir du cabanon.
City authorities say they have implemented measures to redirect and control the flow of people in the centre, but it's just not enough.
La nouvelle spatialisation nous a permis d'absorber cette fréquentation record, mais après, effectivement, il ne faudrait pas que ça augmente encore plus que ce que c'est actuellement. Là, on atteint, je pense, les limites de l'exercice. L'espace public n'est pas extensible.
This Christmas, the city is expected to beat last year's record of 2.8 million visitors. A huge amount considering Strasbourg's population of 850,000.
It hasn't been an easy year for many Italians. According to latest polls, half of them are seriously concerned by the war in Gaza. And, like most Europeans, they face sky-high inflation and a struggling economy. But even if Italians feel uncertain about what 2024 has in store, many have found time to do some Christmas shopping and enjoy a stroll around town.
Abbiamo passato tutti un anno impegnativo su vari fronti. Queste guerre sì, ci preoccupano un po', ci preoccupa un po' anche lo stato, diciamo, di salute della nostra nazione, sinceramente. Siamo tutti un po' provati, ecco, ci vuole un po' di attenzione, però non dobbiamo perdere la speranza perché insomma che l'anno nuovo porti un po' di pace.
Intanto con la grande speranza che vengano risolti quei due problemi della guerra che sono veramente terribili, però io vedo che tutto questo così giusta gioia di essere felici a Natale, io auguro a tutti buon Natale eccetera, però dietro purtroppo ci sono delle cose anche nel nostro paese impellenti di persone che non riescono ad arrivare alla fine del mese.
Credo anche che ci sia spazio per la speranza, per vivere nello spirito natalizio, che significa appunto credere nel futuro, credere nelle cose potranno andare bene se noi le faremo andare bene. Dipende da noi, certo, da noi esseri umani.
The streets of Rome are crowded as usual around this time of year, filled with both locals and tourists.
Despite all, it looks like Italians are not ready to give up on their holidays, especially during the festive period. In fact, according to the latest available data, holiday bookings between the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024 have increased by almost 15% compared to the previous year. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.